I think we are live. Hi, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Y'all already know how this goes. I'm doing the tagging, I'm doing the adding, you already know how this goes. So, y'all just come on in, come on to the virtual healing room. Get comfortable. Get comfortable. I am going to share and tag and do all the things. Happy Sunday, guys. Oh, I've been ready for this live, y'all. I've been ready. I have been ready. Let's get it. Let me make sure everyone can see us, everyone can hear us. If you guys are joining the live, let me know that you can hear me, you can see me, that your Sunday is going well. Let me know. Sometimes it takes a minute for me to actually see us going live. So let me see. Oh, there we go. Okay, hold on. How's everybody's day? Tell me about your Sunday so far. I know this topic is a little heavy, but much needed. Let's see here. Welcome to the virtual healing room, everybody. I may have to. I put my phone on do not disturb, and I wonder if that means I can't see some of my Facebook stuff. So let me see. Anyway, come on in. If you can hear me, if you can see me, let me know. That would help me out so much. Let's see here. Okay, let's see. Oh, it's not open. Oh, there we go. Let's see. Okay, guys. Oh no. Hold on. Let's see. Looks like this broadcast. Oh, hold on. I'm about to bring y'all in. Erica, hold on. So it says that this live looks like that it was deleted from Facebook. Try creating a new broadcast. I have no idea.
Oh no.
First time ever. Listen, let me bring Sharon on too so she can hear me. Hold on. Yes, it did. I was like, okay, hold on. I can't see it on my page.
That's why I keep looking to make sure to see if
you don't see it either, right?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I see the invites, but I don't see it on my page at all, and I accept it. So
how is this possible? Looks like this broadcast was deleted on Facebook. Try creating a new broadcast. How is that possible? And we need our Facebook. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new one. I'm going to send y'all the link because the devil is all up in this. He didn't want this conversation to happen. This has never happened. I've had 18 lives from StreamYard to Facebook to YouTube. So we're good on YouTube. Facebook is not letting it happen. So let me I don't know. Let me see if I can it says it's public. I don't know. All right. So I'm gonna create a new one. I'm gonna send y'all the link. It'll be at least less than 5 minutes. Y'all can come on there.
Okay.
But I see it on here that said it went live 4 minutes ago, and that's exactly right.
So, but it's not showing on there. Do you see it going live?
It says live now.
It says go live.
But
I feel like that go live is just going to be me.
It's going to be you.
It says live now. My heart hurts. It says, but I wonder if that's because of the time you set it for.
It looks like the broadcast was deleted on Facebook. Try a brand new broadcast or just remove. Okay, or just remove this destination from broadcast and try to re-add it. Okay. All right, let me try this again.
Okay, do that.
Oh, Lord. Erica, when we just talking about
Technology. Yes,
listen, this is
this
a
is
mess.
why I can't stand it.
It's part of it. Let me see if I can save changes. Let me see. All right, let's see. It said it was saved. Let me see. They thought this conversation wasn't gonna happen. I know.
Exactly.
It's
The bottom
happening.
line is you just go right back in. Like, excuse me, I will be stepping back in.
Stepping right back in. So
Yeah.
it says that, let's see, Facebook looks live. I don't know if I trust it. So, oh no. Oh, we live, y'all. Okay.
There we go. Yes, we are.
Okay. But so my only concern, just really quick, is that it didn't go live from the actual like page, you think? We had 100 people saying they pulling up. I would hate that they missed this content. I don't know. Marcus, oh, what's up? Marcus said I need some tea. Oh, gee, listen, Marcus, you are tuning in from Facebook. This is part of, listen, this is the grimy part of business that people refuse to deal with and talk about. But this is reality. Like, we were ready to go. Facebook said it deleted it. Marcus, can you let me know if you joined from my actual Facebook page or from the group? I didn't see it live on the group. Okay, whatever. We're gonna keep moving. I don't know what's going on today. They don't want us to talk about grief, but we are. I had a whole different plan on how I was gonna introduce y'all. Listen, but we professionals, we're gonna keep it moving. My brother says, hi, beauties, 3 beauties. Hi. Shine. We had some technical difficulties. I still need to share this though. So hold on, y'all. This messed us up. It didn't mess us up. We're gonna change the whole language.
We just skipped a beat. That's it. We just skipped a beat. It did
we
not
just skipped a little beat. Okay, cool. I'm gonna tag you ladies.
Okay.
On the live on my Facebook page. And if you can accept it, then we should, whoever said that they were gonna come that knows you and wanted to join this conversation, they'll be able to see it.
Perfect.
Because Facebook tried it today. They tried it. I've never seen you delete it. What you deleted for, Facebook? Why didn't you talk to me first? Why didn't you talk to me? So here we go, y'all. Let's get it. We had some technicals. If you just coming in, the devil is a bald head live. Okay, we still going live today. You tried it. Welcome to the virtual healing room. Come on in. I was gonna give y'all all the tea, all the things, but I can't now. Right now, now I'm interrupted in their time. So come on in the virtual healing room, y'all. Please love this video. Please share it and tag at least 5 people. I used to say 1 or 2 people, Sharon and Erica, but at this point, I'm tired of being nice and modest. Tag them all.
That's right.
Tag everyone. You tag them on goofy stuff anyway. Tag them on stuff. It's free therapy. Tag them all. Y'all know we love to tag on the funny stuff, which I'm here for. I love to see it. But this is free therapy. This is stuff that we need to invest our life in and our time in, and I'm not charging anything. The only thing that we're giving you is our time, and that's worth enough. So please tag at least 5 people and hashtag free therapy. Put free therapy here in the chats, and let's go. Welcome to the virtual healing room. I am your host, Erica Janice, and I have dope conversations with dope people. The purpose of this platform is to inspire and it's to motivate people to improve the relationship with self. And we do this, of course, by inviting prominent leaders into our platform. They talk about spiritual things, mental health, fitness, all things the betterment of you. This is what we talk about in hopes of bringing closed door conversations to the forefront. You know, some of these conversations we just quite naturally shy away from. This is what we do. And so my hopes is that when you come to this live, you cringe a little bit. You don't want to really be here, but you know you kind of got to be here because you ain't gonna talk about it no other place. So Thank you for giving me your Sunday. Thank you for giving me your hours. Thank you for giving me my technical difficulties, because you guys didn't have to stick around. And we have 7 people tuned in already, 3 likes. So people they coming, they pulling up.
Yeah.
So joining me today, I have 2 sisters who are dynamic duos. It has been a pleasure meeting you guys. The first time we talked, it was probably about an hour-long Zoom where y'all was grilling me. I was like, wait a minute, I want y'all. Why y'all grilling me? But you want to make sure that when you came and you spoke, that it was a platform that you appreciated and you respected. So that conversation to me was amazing. And so thank you guys for your yes. We have Sharon Brubaker and Erica Horore here with us today. They both are grief specialists. These sisters have helped hundreds of grievers complete their own personal grief process, and assisted them in creating healthy ways to push through the pain, to push through isolation, and to push through loneliness. Sharon and Erica are the authors of The Healing Place in Processing Grief, which is a journal for new grievers. These ladies host their own weekly podcast called Healing Starts with the Heart, and which can be found on YouTube, Spotify, and SoundCloud. Together, these passionate ladies travel around the world and the country to help grievers everywhere. Y'all help me welcome these 2 beautiful sisters. And at this point, they wasn't supposed to be on the screen, okay? And I was gonna press a do and do. We had a whole thing, but Facebook, they ain't want it. So they're here. So they're here. Welcome to the platform, ladies. I'm so happy. We promoted this live and people wanted it. I wasn't sure. When I do lives, it's really about healing myself in hopes that it heals other people. But when they heard grief and death and the hopes and the possibility of overcoming, people just kind of want to know, is that possible? So thank you guys. I would like to start with discussing your own personal experiences with grief and what led you both to get in such a kind of like a sticky topic, a topic that's shied away from. Like, I'll start with you, Erica. Like, give me your personal testimony of how you started and what makes you so passionate with helping other people.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us today. We are equally as excited as you are to do this, because sadly, this is one of our most favorite things to talk about. And this is why Sharon says we don't have friends, because we have to talk about grief so much. This is not a career like when I grow up, I want to be a grief specialist. Never, ever did those words come out of my mouth. We came to this profession the hard way. We came to it because of our own personal loss. And in 2006, my 10-year-old son, Austin, drowned. He was on a boating trip with my husband. We were separated at the time. They went to Lake Havasu. And this is a trip we had taken as a family since my boys were toddlers. Austin was my middle son, and he was amazing. I mean, he was just a character. And at this point, having such a large family, I mean, I had been going to funerals since I was 6 years old, but I had never, as a family, we hadn't really lost a child or a young person very close to us. So it hit us so hard. And Sharon is my big sister. She's true big sister. We kind of have that mother-daughter dynamic because of the age difference. She took it on as a personal mission to help cure me, or fix me. Because when people are grieving, people assume that you're broken. And she encouraged me to go to all kinds of support groups, traditional grief support groups and whatnot. The problem with that, when you get in that format, it's just everyone has a story, right? So you're just listening to everyone else's sad story, all these other parents who have lost children. And when I was leaving I'm feeling worse than when I got there because now I'm carrying their sadness, taking it on as my own because I know how bad it feels.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm never going to heal this way. I can't do this. So I'll just go about my own process, and which is like just trying to live. Because the message also for parents who lose children is that you'll never get over it. So that's just kind of what I was telling Sharon. I'm just going to have to live this way for the rest of my life. We're never going to move past this until we found this program. And it was the very first day when I sat down and the facilitator said, the 5 stages of grief are not for grievers. It's for people who are dying. And I was like, thank God, because I thought I was doing it wrong. I said it out loud. It was such a huge relief because I was forcing myself to be in these 5 stages box because that's all we had for grief.
Yeah.
And we had such a tremendous, like, positive experience at the end of the program. And I say our lives were changed for the better because never would I imagine that healing after losing a child was possible. And that is why we decided to get into it. Sharon said, we got to tell everyone about this. We need to get certified and teach us. I was like, yes, we do. And in 2015, we actually decided to merge our businesses because we were going about it pretty separate at that point.
Yeah.
And 2 days after we finished a recertification, my oldest son died in a motorcycle accident. And it was like our family was struck by lightning twice. And my response, Donovan was 2 weeks shy of his 21st birthday. He was my person. Like, he was the one kid that he always showed up for me. I mean, this boy was beautiful. He was a ham. He loved attention. I mean, we were so close. We watched TV shows together. If we didn't talk on the phone every day, we text. We did not go a day without talking. And when I had that loss, I wanted to take everything I knew about grief, every book, every piece of paper, and burn it in the trash. I just resisted the pain. My grief was so much darker. I lived in a place of anger for a solid year, and I thought I was going to lose myself to the darkness. I really did. And it was a constant presence of mind I say I clawed my way out by my fingernails to get out of that dark hole. And I'm not saying, I'm glad we have this experience. I'm not at all. What I'm saying is I think that the experience has really made us more complete as grief specialists because I understand the dark and the anger and the immense pain. I felt like I took Austin's loss so graciously. And I'm like, I kind of leaned into it and I was like, okay, this has happened. We got to move forward. I did not have that attitude when Donovan died. And it was so much harder to get me back. And Sharon, I didn't talk to Sharon about it. We were on the phone every day when Austin died. We were on the phone every day when Donovan died, but I was lying my butt off about how I was doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was just a struggle.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Erica. Every time I hear that story, it takes me to a place. So, and the fact that you are able to even get through that lets me know that these sort of conversations and the amount of work that you put in is insurmountable. I can't say enough when every time you tell that story. And of course, with me being a mom, it pulls at my heartstrings. So thank you for being so vulnerable and open.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. What about you, Sharon? What's your experience with grief and death?
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us. Thank you so much for inviting us. And thank you for allowing us to put our message out there. So for me, as long as I live, I will never forget the look on Erica's face when I said, "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. He's drowned." And just prior to going there to her apartment door, I was walking up the stairs and I had another sister with me, Charlene. And she said from behind me, she said, "You tell her." And it was really funny because it was not like we had discussed who was going to do this and but I knew she was talking to me. And when she said, "You tell her," the next thought in my head was, I've never used the word grief. I don't know how to grieve. And like we're walking up the stairs, and those are my thoughts. I have never used the word grief. I don't know how to grieve. And in my naive state, I literally thought this. I thought, and it wasn't a thought, it was a feeling. Erica's going to grieve, and my job is going to be to help her through this. And at that moment, I thought she was broken. I thought grievers were broken and they needed to be fixed. Keep in mind, I never accepted that I would be grieving also.
Yeah.
I went on a mission to fix my sister. That's what it was. And so part of sending her to the bereavement groups, and I called all the hospitals, was me just being the big sister and trying to fix her. The entire time I was negating my own grief that it was going on because I had to do this part. But it's that one moment right there that has kept me going and keeps me going. Yes, I have grief for Austin and Donovan 100%. I have grief for my sister and for her husband, all of those parts. But the not knowing what to do and realizing that not only did we not know what to do, but all of America doesn't know what to do. Mm-hmm. We didn't know what to do. And everywhere we went, Eric, there was misinformation everywhere. Or can I say stupid advice? Should I say dumb advice?
Yes.
I mean, some of the things that we would
say it all.
It was just like, no, that doesn't even seem right. And even some of the stuff we still hear to this day.
Yeah.
So then think about it here. The only thing, because social media wasn't what it is today back then.
Yeah.
Today we would have so much more research, right? So social media wasn't what it was, but Google was around. And so I Googled it and I found the 5 stages, which she and I had both studied in college. I printed them out. I brought it back to her. I mean, you guys don't even know. I was digging everywhere to find advice. And everything we were hearing was, you will suffer for the rest of your life. You will be like this for the rest of your life. Your life is over. You are doomed to a life of grieving. And that's a lie. And it wasn't true. And I think that need for me to fix her and to really know that there was an answer. And it didn't come fast. You know, it was over a year of searching and researching. So yeah, that's how it came about. We are forever changed. We will never be the women we were back then. Never. We sit at the feet of women and we know, and we really know.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. For everyone who has just tuned in, welcome to the virtual healing room. We are talking about loss. We are talking about grief. And I would love for you to tag at least 5 people in the chat. And I would love for you to share this, even if it doesn't hit you. If you have arrived, like these ladies have arrived, okay. But I wonder how many that I don't believe it. So I need you to share and tag people into this conversation so we could start having some of these closed door conversations brought to the forefront. Erica, what is grief, and what and how does the brain process it?
Well, grief, honestly, is anything that causes a brokenness in your heart. People associate grief mostly with death, first and foremost, and then divorce, which those are 2 of the main. But grief is anything that causes a brokenness in your heart. A breakup of a romantic relationship, losing your job, retiring from your job. You know, a change. It is also a change in your patterns, in your normal patterns. So if you have a change in your health, I have struggled. I had to have hip surgery. I was really struggling with your body can't do the things it used to do. That causes a brokenness. So grief is anything that causes that. Sharon and I have identified, we say that at least 47 things that can cause you to have grief, but there's things that people have experienced that we may not be familiar with at this point. If it's unsettling your soul and your spirit, you're having a grief event, you know?
Yes.
And what happens to us is, and that's what Sharon did. She was a perfect example of going intellectual, right? Your brain tries to protect you from the pain. Yes. So Sharon trying to research how to fix me was her brain taking over. So she was not paying attention to her own pain after Austin passed away. It's a distraction. And that's what our brain wants. We think, and that's also the messages that we've been given, that we can think our way out of the grief. We can't. Grief happens in our heart. We have to feel it. You have to let the emotion, whatever emotion shows up. It's not always sadness. When Donovan died, I was pissed. I was mad at him. I was mad at God. I was mad at everyone. I was mad at the world. The anger was holding my sadness at bay, but I was mad. That was the emotion that was showing up. And also because I wasn't familiar with it, I didn't want to talk about being mad. So I thought I could only feel sad or I'm going to be judged. I could just imagine, how are you going to be mad at your son? He died. What's wrong with you? What kind of mother are you? So I never talked about it. But now knowing it's whatever emotion shows up, there is no recipe book for grief to say these emotions are going to show up on this day in this way. You are who you are, and it shows up how it shows up. But that is the one thing to know. The way out is through. And you start by letting the emotions come in. You can't solve your grief with the brain.
Can I also add on to that?
Absolutely.
There's this form of intellectual grief and emotional grief is something that Erica and I have discovered and we've worked on for the past 17 years, to be honest with you. If we meet a griever, within 2 seconds, we know whether she or he is in intellectual grief or emotional grief. We can tell right away. So, and people in intellectual grief, where their brain is trying to figure out the grief, that's where they mostly get stuck, right? So here, let me give you an example. If you have a loss due to death by suicide, or you have a loss due to death by murder, typically that griever is going to be 100% stuck in their intellectual grief because they're going to be trying to solve what has just happened to them. They're going to be trying to solve it, as opposed to, let me just give you the example. We knew Donovan died in a motorcycle accident. We had the answers were all right there. Then we just had to figure out how fast was he driving, what direction was he going in, right? That's still all intellectual. But someone who dies by suicide, the family member is left with that. Why? How? Did I miss signs? And they go out onto becoming these huge detectives, trying to solve the loss. And so it's so important to understand that you're going to be in both. Every griever is going to have both. Even Erica and I, we had intellectual and emotional, but helping them to drop down into the emotional and stay there long enough so we can help them complete the pain is really the key.
It's interesting because I think about that. It's the we don't want to feel, right?
No.
So we can if we want to make sense of it intellectually, like, oh, this happened, he was driving fast. Like if it all that adds up, then it makes it somehow better. Like, oh, that makes sense why that happened. But it's the emotional part. With anything that that feeling of sadness, and I wish I could have, and if only I could have, and if I would have been, it's the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, right? That feeling is hard. And like you said, that goes through anything. That's death, that's a loss of a job, it's a loss of yourself. It's, man, I wish I could have, and you couldn't. And so having to sit in the fact that I didn't have any sort of resolve and I couldn't help, it's a lonely and sad place to be. And most people, we don't want to be there. So I get why the emotional part would be the hardest to overcome.
Yeah. And and there's things that, because it is so hard to let the emotions in, there's thoughts that I had and feelings after Donovan passed, like, about not wanting to live but people, they don't want to say those things because, the receivers don't know how to deal with that information. And the first thing they want to do is call 911. We got to get him in a hospital, get her in a hospital. That's part of it. It's part of it. If you go through something traumatic, that's normal to have those thoughts because the pain is so overwhelming.
Yeah. So I think it leads me kind of to my next question, which is, I know for me, I don't always have the capacity to voice or to necessarily put language to when I'm like overjoyed and I'm super happy. So I can't imagine going through such immense pain and trying to put language to that. Do you feel like this is kind of the reason, or partially the reason, why we kind of shy away from having the death and grief conversation? Because adding language to it, we don't really know how.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I got this one, girl.
Go ahead.
Take it away.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Look at what we just been through. We have, as a humankind, have just lost over 1 million people to COVID.
Yeah.
And still, we're not literate. We don't have the literacy to talk about grief. Can you believe that? I don't know anybody that wasn't at least touched by COVID. Someone getting COVID, fighting about wearing the mask, whether to get the vaccine. All three of them were grieving experiences. So as a human race, we have all been through something really, really huge, deep, intellectual, emotional. We got to change the conversation, the literacy around grief, period. We need the words to formulate it. I was never given a book. I've been married for 37 years to the most amazing man. And when I married him, nobody came up to me and said, okay, here's the book on how you're to be married. And these are the rules you're to follow. And make sure you pay attention to chapter 6. Then, and, 3 beautiful children. Nobody gave me the book on that.
Oh,
so if they didn't give you the book on how to do those, they sure as heck ain't giving you no book on how to grieve, because we don't talk about those things.
That's
real. So the way through this, like Erica was saying, is the conversation. Is platforms like this. It is 100% platforms like this. I'm sorry, sister.
No, it's okay. I was just going to say, when we started talking about the pain, and we use it's like you have a knife stabbed in. Sharon will say, it's like you have a knife stabbed in your heart. But for me, because that didn't convey it enough for me, it was like, no, that's not nowhere near. I feel like that knife has been stabbed through my soul. You know what I mean? And that is what I was trying to do, to get people to see how deep it goes for me to be a mother who has buried 2 children. They were part of me. I grew those little suckers. And now to not have them here, it is, I feel like I'm fractured to my soul. The other thing about when it comes to talking about grief, our support group, or our support circle, right? They tiptoe because they say, oh, Erica, I didn't want to make you feel bad. I didn't bring it up because I don't make you feel bad. I feel bad 24 hours a day, because of what I've gone through. At the time, not now, when I was in the pain. Yeah. You're not going to make me feel bad. You are, though, at least giving me a platform to at least start trying to express myself. But if you don't ask me about it, I'm just going to hold it in.
Yeah. It just makes me think, and it's a question we'll go back to later down the line. But I feel like because one, we don't talk about grief and we don't talk about death, right? And then it happens, and then it's like, now I don't even know what to say. Like, if I went through it, I don't know what to say. But then I also don't even know how to support someone. Like, again, it's the words. And I think a lot of it is like, you don't want to overly offend anyone, but then also you just don't know. So if we know that things and people have a definitive expiration date, right? We don't know when, but we for sure know that things and people have expiration dates. So we know that. I think we can have 1 million people on this line and we'll all say, we know that one thing to be true.
Yeah.
So if we know that to be true, why is the actual revelation so devastatingly hard for us to cope with? Sharon.
So, are you going to be the tough question? You
I didn't want to go first.
I think number one, it's because of the shock that your body goes through. Your body is going to accept this as shock, especially if it was traumatizing. Your loss was traumatizing, unexpected. Keep in mind, even knowing Eric and I both stood at our dad's bedside as he was dying, knowing that he was leaving didn't make it any easier. We still grieve. We still grieve deeply, right? So the number one is the shock that your body goes through. The second thing that's going to happen is that you start doing the very first thing you start doing is a review of your relationship with that person. So this, I'm going to take you guys way back, but it's almost like you're at the card catalog in the library and you have that little drawer, the Dewey Decimal drawer. You open that drawer up. In that drawer is your entire relationship. My entire relationship with Donovan was in that drawer. And I would go through the cards and I would pull out this picture. And in that picture, I would have this memory of me and him driving down the street, me allowing him to drive my car and him not having his permit on him, and me being really upset with him. Like your mind reviews that whole event. Yeah. And within that event are all the things that you wish you had said, the things you wish you still had time to say, all of the things that you wish you had done different. I wish I didn't yell and scream at him. Why didn't I tell him how much I loved him that day? Your mind starts doing this review and you put that card down and the next thing you go to the next card. If you've ever come upon a grieving experience with someone where they've really lost someone and you're there hours, minutes, or days into that loss, you will see the griever do this thing. And they kind of turn their head to the side and they just stare. And you can ask the griever, what were you thinking about? Hey, what were you thinking about? And they'll always have the same answer, and it's nothing. It's not that they weren't thinking about nothing. Their mind starts doing that review. You instantly start doing that review. And what you're finding are all the things you wish were better, different, or more. And so the body can't accept all of that at one time. And that is why the brain takes over, because all of that going on at one time. Also, the griever, this is going back to your last statement, but the griever needs to talk. Your last question. All grievers need to talk. They are dying to talk and hear themselves say the thing out loud, right? Yeah. But we, the support, aren't able to handle it, or we don't want to hear it, or we don't want to make you cry. And so we don't ask about how you're doing. We don't ask you about your grief. We don't ask you about all those things. And it leaves the griever with no place to really talk.
Yeah. And that's the part, the fact that we know death it's coming, it's guaranteed. That's the irony about the whole thing, because we are never ready to talk about it. We're never comfortable. But I think that's because, and like Sharon said, when we knew our dad was dying, we still were broken because we missed him. So even though you can think that, oh, I'm going to be ready, I'm going to tell my loved ones, every day that I love them, and I'm going to make sure everyone in my life knows how much I appreciate them. And then that person, someone close to you dies, you don't know how you're going to react. And the one thing you're going to do is go to your normal pattern, what you saw and had witness to. So for us, being 10 years apart, she identified and did exactly what my parents did. My parents would be the first ones on the scene, but like with aunts and uncles or whatever, they'd be organizing the meal train. They would start making phone calls. My dad would actually be just bossing people around, and Sharon does that very well. But it's be strong, right? You show up to be strong, and that's what she did. And that's what you typically will do, is go into what examples were set for you on how to deal with trauma, grief, sadness, and you'll go right into those. And that's the part where you have to make a mindful choice to say, I'm not going to do what my parents did. I'm going to do this the best way for me to get my healing that I need.
Yeah. So grief covers a broad range of experiences, as we know, whether it be grief of a loss of a loved one, or grief of a romantic relationship. grief of a friendship, grief of wealth, or grief of health. Like, it's a broad multitude of things that we can reach from. In your profession, has there been one particular grief that you feel like has been the hardest for a person to overcome?
We say the same thing. We say grief is grief is grief.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
Grief is grief is grief. So we never compare the losses. Erica lost Austin, her son, whom she had a relationship with from the day that she conceived him. I had a relationship with him, obviously from the day she told me she was pregnant, but my relationship started with the day he was born. I was at the hospital hours after he was born. My relationship started with him then. I have no idea what it's like for Erica to have lost her son, Austin. She has no idea what it was like for me to lose my nephew, whom I loved and had quite often at my house. She has no idea what my heart went through. Like, we can't compare it. Yeah. There's no layers to it. And every grief is going to be different. And you're going to grieve them all differently. Even Erica, the mother of the two boys, she lost a 10-year-old and a 21-year-old, 10 years apart. And even her grief was different each time.
Yeah.
Even her grief was different each time. So we meet people that have lost their parent, and that parent was their best friend, and it takes them a while. We meet people that have lost their child. We meet people that have lost their spouse. We meet people that have lost their job. And if I was putting it on a grid, I would say some people have lost their job and they grieve just as deeply as someone who's lost a parent. So it all depends on the circumstances and what things you're putting into that pocket. There's also layers to the grief, right? So Erica lost Donovan, but yet she was also very, very mad. So there's a second layer of anger, right? And then she lost her best friend. She lost her son. She was angry. She also had to cope with the fact that she lost a best friend. Somebody who loses a husband might be coping with the fact that he was the major breadwinner. She might also be coping with the fact that she doesn't have a driver's license. I mean, that very rarely happens anymore, but now she's got to go out and get a job, or he maybe have had a tumultuous relationship with one of the children. So now she's got all of that to deal with. It can go so deep in the layers. So grief is grief. It doesn't matter. We don't judge it. We don't put it on a scale. If you came to me and said you lost your fur baby and you can't function and you've been out of work for 3 months, guess what? I'm going to treat you exactly the same as I treated Erica the day her child died. I'm going to give you the same respect because it's not for us to say.
That's so good. Because my next question, I know you guys saw it, but it was really about if a person lost their job versus losing a loved one, would you suggest that the healing would be different? Would you suggest, like, okay, it's the job, all right, you only been there for 20 years, but your kid, like, is that different? But I think it's really good to know, because I think as humans, we put things as, it's just a job. Okay, fine, I shouldn't grieve. You know, somebody else lost their child, somebody else lost a parent. You know, I just lost my dog, but it's not the same as something else. And so I think that we start having this hierarchy of ranking of importance, that my dog or something else is not as significant as a loss of a person or a romantic relationship, right? It's devastating. And you hear people say, well, you could have lost a person, or they could have died to death. And it's just these you start putting them on this sort of these levels. And I think it's great to know that grieving is grief, as you said, Sharon, we get to grieve the loss of whatever. I remember when my mom lost her, she was laid off. She was at her job for like 35 years. And that could be a stretch, but it was somewhere, she was up there, at least 20 plus. And I remember, and of course, not being at this place is healed and emotionally intellectual. I was just like, wow, she was really depressed. It's weird. It's a job. Screw that job. Like, now you can chill. You can come down to Dallas and hang out. Like, you're not on the clock no more. And she ended up telling me that she went through a really dark time.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder how many people are not talking about that as well, that once you lose a job, that now she has to fill the void. And how now her kids are working and the grandkids are older. Like, she didn't know what to do with that time, and she wasn't married, she wasn't really dating. And so I love that grief is like, it's so many different things that we just don't talk about. And like I think Erica said at the beginning, we talk about more of a loss of a person or a marriage, but like, let's normalize the loss of a pet or a job or a relationship, or hell, just the loss of an expectation. I'm turning 40 here in a couple months, and I ain't got no man. I ain't never been proposed to. I ain't having no more kids. Baby, I'm struggling. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It's the loss of the expectations at 40.
That's right.
Nobody told me. Like, I'm honestly going through my own personal grief.
Yes.
We don't talk about that though.
No.
We don't talk about that. So
yeah, and I feel like it's sad because you have real feelings about what you're going through.
Yeah.
But when it comes to society, they will minimize your feelings because, well, that's nothing to feel bad about. You know how many people don't make it to 40? You know what I mean? That's all the unsolicited advice that you get, and just the crappy comments. It's going to make you stop opening up and then just take your grief inwards, which is then going to take you longer to heal from, because it feels better when you find that network of people that you can connect with. And that's why one of the things, we have this amazing Facebook group, and there's people who've experienced all different types of losses.
Yeah.
You would never minimize someone's pain. Like, how rude. Yeah. I couldn't even imagine doing that to someone. It would just, and for me, like, I've been in other like child loss groups and things like that, but I would never say to another mother, I know how you feel.
Yeah.
To me, that's the most disrespectful thing you can say to a griever, because I didn't know her child. I didn't know her relationship with her child. How could I know exactly how she feels? There's no way. Do I know how bad I felt? Does my heart hold empathy because of what I went through? 100%. I am here for you, and I'm so sorry because I know what I went through, and my heart hurts for you. But I would never say to another mother, I know how you feel. It's disrespectful. And hopefully people will walk away with that as one of the biggest lessons from all the facts that we're putting out. But it's just, we need to stop doing that, because also what you get, and I got a lot of, I know exactly how you feel. My 90-year-old grandmother just died. That's not the same. I mean, I'm sorry. And I'm not minimizing that grief for you. But you're now taking away from my experience when I'm talking about losing my 10-year-old son. This has happened to me at work all the time.
Yeah. Are you saying that the 90-year-old was already kind of getting close to the door? I mean, what you saying?
I don't think it was a shot.
You lose your granny at 105. My granny died. She was 105. I get it. I was like,
Well, okay. I know you got jokester Erica's in here, both cracking jokes. Hear me out on this. I want to, on the same token of that. The other thing that happens when you say my granny died and she was 105 is that the average person around you want to say this. Well, she lived a good life. You should be okay with that. But what if that granny was your best friend? What if that granny taught you how to cook and how to clean and told you all the story about the old days? Yeah. And what if that granny was your friend and had a special place in your heart, and you really knew her and you went there every day after school? What if she was that granny? And so what we do is we try to minimize or rationalize it. Yeah. And I can't even tell you, that's the amount of things that Erica was told about Austin and having more children, because that's the whole behind the trying to fix it. But Erica, I agree with you. One of the things Sister Erica and I always say is that loss of hopes, dreams, and expectations, that is a huge grief. I am planning right now, my husband and I are on the hunt for a fifth wheel, and we're going to travel around the United States.
Yeah.
I don't know what God's plan is, but let's say God said that that's not going to be his plan, and that doesn't happen for us. Yeah. I could absolutely see somebody like myself grieving that, the trips that we never got to take, the time we never got to spend together. It's just like that. all of the things that never happened for us. We meet so many people that call us and say, I thought I'd be married by now. I want to be at this point in life. I never got that degree. I never finished college and got that degree. That's a loss of hopes, dreams, and expectations. And sometimes you don't realize it's there until you've had a major loss in your life, and then that comes up. So it is an area that Eric and I work in a lot.
Yeah.
So good.
And I just want to piggyback on that with her saying, depending on what other loss, grief is cumulative and it's cumulatively negative. So if you have had some other losses and you are at the same time experiencing that, it just makes one big ball of hurt in your heart.
Compounding of emotions.
That's it.
Yeah. Wow. This just, I'm over here like, I don't know if this helping y'all. I'm over here like, I'm really in grief right now.
Yeah.
I'm having a moment, but again, it's the language. We don't know what language to use. We could say that it's depression or sadness, or it's just like, oh, maybe I'm just overthinking, but it's grief of expectations. It's huge.
Yeah.
Yes, it's huge. It's huge.
When researching this, and I think we talked when we initially did our call to do this live, and there appear to have been like these 5 stages of grieving, right? You go and Google grieving. These are the stages. Check, 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 and then I'm good, right? Once I go through all those, they don't give you necessarily a time frame, but they do say this. They say that the grieving process is outlined as this: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Are you guys in agreement with this process, with the 5 steps? And if you're not, let us know what a process would look like for you guys.
You go first.
Yeah, I'm going first. All right. We both want to yell and scream every time we hear it. So I actually debunked on the TEDx stage the 5 stages of grief, and I was the first one to actually debunk the 5 stages of grief on the TEDx stage. So I actually stand up on the TEDx stage and call BS, a big time call BS. So Elizabeth Kubler-Ross was a doctor who was studying death and dying. And she actually wrote the stages, which was at one time 13 stages that she actually wrote for her interns. So here she is starting hospice. She's trying to get hospice started and launched. And so we have her to thank for that we now have a hospice program. But she had these interns come in, and she wanted to be able to walk in the patient's room, see what stage the dying patient was in what stage. So the interns could quickly report to her they're in stage 1 and stage 2 and stage 3 and stage 4, all the way up to stage 13. One of her students took the 13 stages of death and dying and did a misservice to all of us in society. He attached them to grief. He only took out the 5 and attached them to grief. First of all, you typically don't see it. Erica will go a little deeper into that. You don't see it in the grieving person. You 100% see it in the dying person. When Eric and I stood at the feet of our Father as he lay dying, through the weeks, we saw him have acceptance. We saw him with bargaining. I'm going to eat better food. I'm going to do right now. We saw him do bargaining, right? Denial, and it's depressing. Grief in itself is depressing. You could be angry. Can you imagine being a young mom that has just been told you have 4-stage pancreatic cancer? Yeah, I'm going to be mad. I'm mad at you, the doctor, and everybody in the world. But to say that we drop down into these stages, so here's what happens, my friend, is that the griever now tries to figure out what stage they're in. So we spend every day trying to figure out what stage we're in. Intellectually, we're trying to figure out what stage we're in. I can't even tell you the amount of people that call us and they tell us what stage they're in. I'm currently in bargaining, and I'm like, okay, so tell me what that's like. Because for us, there is no stages.
And that's where I would get lost every time. Bargaining.
Yeah.
Who am I supposed to bargain with? You know, when Austin died, I was like, I was supposed to go Old Testament and sacrifice some goat, and then God's gonna send me Austin back. Like, I got lost in bargaining. That's why it just was such a challenge for me to really embrace the 5 stages. And I kind of made this mental thing saying, you're not gonna get past this because you're not grieving right, so you're never going to get over it. Because I kind of started to buy in to all the misinformation that's out there. If you can't get through the stages, because I don't know how to do bargaining, it never made sense. And denial, we were on the phone one time, she almost, I think, was very close to having me committed. We're on the phone and we're talking, it was our routine and it was comfort. And I mean, I so appreciated it. And she's like, well, what stage are you in today? And I said, denial. I mean, I really was like faking it. Like, I have no idea. Yeah. And she's like, you know, he died, right? And I was like, of course I know he died. Like, what? But it just, when you think about it, it made no sense. It made no sense. But like Sharon said, when we put it to my dad, it's like it fit like a glove. You see it play out in front of your face when someone knows that they are terminal and they, you know, have a terminal illness. You see it right fit for them.
Yeah. So what stages do you guys call it stages? Like, what do you feel like these 5 are missing? Or you're just saying that, what are we missing from that then?
So let me just tell you, like, I'm just going to throw out some things and they do not go in order. That's the other thing.
Yes.
Shock, numbness, sadness, despair, loneliness, isolation, weakness, hunger. A griever could be hungry, loss of appetite, irritable, forgetfulness, pain, aches, headaches, crying, anxiety, depression, regret, wanting to fight, isolating, fatigue, sleeping too much, not sleeping at all, feeling guilty, sexual urges. A griever can have a ton of sexual urges. We can feel detached from society. And hear me out. You can feel a number of these in one day. You can be stuck in one for many, many days. That just goes on and on and on and doesn't seem like it's ever going to lessen up. We don't know where you're going to be. I would have to say, as grievers, Erica and I have kind of felt most of these, right? So you could be at any point in any time. There's nowhere to say where you're going to be. And each person is going to feel it differently. There were some days I was calling Erica and I was totally bawling and she was telling jokes. Dude, you just got the jokes. Or it was vice versa. Or we would both be bawling that day. Yeah. So it's no way of telling who you're going to be and where you are going to be. One of the things we know for sure is once the numbness does wear off, the pain heightens. So the pain will get a little worse. And so we get a lot of grievers over the 6-month mark that will tell us, this seems like it's getting worse. It's not getting any better. But that is a sign to us that you've really dropped down to your emotional grief.
Yeah. Because it's the more
go ahead.
Sorry. The more time that goes on after you have the loss, like it becomes more real. You can't, your brain will try to help you play games like, oh, he's just at summer camp, or, you know what I mean? Sometimes you can get into those areas. You'll try to trick yourself, but after 6 months, you can't play that game anymore because you're like, no, he would have been home already. My husband would have been coming home from work. Like, it's not going to work anymore for me to try and act like this terrible thing has not happened. And that's when it definitely makes a shift. And that pain does get so much worse because you're like in the thick of it.
Yeah.
What are some healthy ways that people can go about coping with grief, or maybe not coping is the best word, because coping seems to like suppress, but like what's some healthy ways to would you say overcome grief? Is it possible to overcome, or what's some healthy ways to get through? I'm not even really sure if I know.
Like, tell me what to say. Tell me what
I don't know. Somebody else.
to
Get through. I know, but get through just sounds so temporary too. And cope seems like it's a band-aid. I don't think I really have the language for it.
I just say get on their healing journey. What's the best way for someone to get on their healing journey? Because it's the journey. So, and everyone's process is different. So, but there's so many things that are helpful. Okay. First and foremost, you got to tell the truth always. Most importantly, to yourself. Yeah. So if you are really honest, if I would have woke up and said, God, I feel really crappy today. You're right. You need to this is going to be just a mess of a day. I don't want to talk to anybody. Like you can tell someone, I'm struggling today. I'm struggling. But I don't want to talk about it. You can also say that I'm struggling, so you have to acknowledge and be truthful with where you are really at. I wasn't doing that after Donovan passed. And that's how I got myself in trouble. I was burying and stuffing and lying my tail off, telling everybody I was doing laundry. My husband travels for work, so I had no eyes on me. My kids were at school. I was sleeping all day. I was in bed asleep all day because the sleep was a respite from the pain. So if you're just speaking your truth to yourself first and foremost, and then to the people around you, and also what it is, because there's nothing that's going to make it better. Nothing is going to fix it. There's no quick magic wand that we can wave and say, bibbidi bop, you're healed.
Yeah.
So you just say what it is you need or what it is you don't need. Really, really speak your truth. No, that's not going to help. I don't want a house full of people today. I just want to be left alone. I really just want that.
Yeah.
That really helps because you're at least honoring yourself.
I think that I love that, Erica. I really do love that. I think you need to tell the truth about yourself, but you also need to tell the truth about the other person too, because what happens is, how many times have you seen this? You're at the funeral of your neighbor's uncle, and he was an alcoholic that was living on the street, and you go to the funeral and they make him out to be the saint that walked this earth. And you're like, whose funeral am I at? You got to tell the truth about yourself, but you have to tell the truth about the other person. And a lot of times it's hard to come there and say, he really struggled with alcohol or he really struggled with drugs.
Yeah.
So you got to tell the truth about the other person, because we run the risk of enshrining or bedeviling them. Talk. The griever needs to talk. The griever needs to be listened to and heard with respect. When the griever is talking, our job is just to be the listener. Just the listener. So if you can imagine a big giant heart with two of the biggest ears you could ever see hanging off the end, that's all you have to do. Don't say anything. Don't try to correct them, and don't try to fix them. That was a big mistake that I made. Crying. Crying is really good for the griever. It is great for the griever to cry. It is a release of the pressure, the emotional pressure. Erica and I ask grievers all the time, when was the last time you cried? Oh, I'm not crying. If they tell us they're not crying, now hear me out. Tears are not a sign of grief. Tears are a tool to use for you, the griever. If they tell us they're not crying, then we know they're probably kind of stuffing it in. Or most times the tears feel like they're going to come, and then we start swallowing them down. We need to have the crying, and it's okay. Go sit in your room for 10 minutes and bring on those tears and let it release, crying. But more than all of that, you need to learn how to grieve. Most of us don't know how to grieve. We don't even know how. And that's where we come in, is that we walk you through and we give tips to the trade and go, try this, try that. And that's done for quite a period of time from your loss. It takes about, I don't want to put a time frame on it, but 1 to 6 months just of processing the pain. So there are active things that a griever can be doing every day.
And establishing grief boundaries is really helpful too, because sometimes, and it's weird the way it happens. People don't want to talk about grief, like the pain, but they want to know the tea, right? They want to know the story and all the details. So depending on your mood and where you feel, and if you're comfortable talking about it, then share. But if you are not, set grief boundaries. I'm not prepared to talk about that right now, but at some point I would love to tell you my story. It's okay to do that. It is so okay to establish grief boundaries and to put limits where you know you don't push yourself, because you'll be sorry. You almost are like, you don't have the bandwidth to deal with day-to-day life. So it's taking every fiber of your being to get through one day. So don't put yourself in scenarios where it's going to take too much of your energy. You're going to need that.
Yeah.
I want to
Go ahead, Sharon.
I want to leave you this one thing, and I think it was something you alluded to earlier. You'll hear a lot in the news and people talking about closure, when you get closure. I hate that word. I hate it with a passion. It felt like Austin was going to be standing on the other side of that door, and I was going to close the door, never to see him again. So Erica and I really, completion. You become complete. Erica walked a journey with Donovan from the day he was born till the day he left this earth. They were on the journey together. She had to complete her relationship with him. And I think it's so much more of a beautiful thing when you think about completion as opposed to closure.
Yeah, I love that. When I get your emails that you send out, and I was reading the completion journey, and it was so profound, and it was so beautifully written that I think people need to know that it's not about closure. It's just about completing the process.
Yeah.
I love that. How can we talk to our children more about grief and death? And I'll give you 2 examples. So when I was younger, my granny passed, and I may have been like 12 or 13. And I think I kind of remember that she was sick, but it was almost like she was here one day, gone the next day. And I just remember my dad just being so distraught and crying. I think it was the first time I ever seen my dad cry, and he was in a corner, and it just kind of was like, yep, she's not here anymore. So we never really talked about it as a family. And then my daughter's granddad, he passed a couple years ago. And I remember her coming home and telling me like, oh, Dad said that he went up to heaven to have a party. And I was like, can we all go? Like, what they doing up there? Like, what's happening at this party? So I'm like, okay, so at some point the party's, she gonna be like, okay, he's still kicking it? Like, what's going on up there? So I don't know if that's necessarily the best route. And I think we do the best that we can in our description of when someone ascends up to heaven. So my question is, how can we start normalizing these sort of conversations with our children?
So I want to share that when I was 16 years old, Erica was 6 years old, and our aunt passed away. And I had just had this shopping spree with her. That was this amazing experience. So here I have this amazing experience with her. She took me out to lunch. It was just her and another aunt. I never had a treatment like that. And then she dies. Our parents, Erica said our parents were usually the first on the scenes. They made the potato salad, they grabbed the ham, they went over there. They never came back to us and said she died. My mom did tell me on the phone. They didn't come back and say, okay, kids, let's sit down. Okay, this is grief, and this is what it's going to feel like. And this is what your body's going to, they didn't do any of that. So we lay out some steps for the parents to help them with their kids. And it's do go first. Okay. Do tell the truth. We're back to telling the truth again. Use the words death or died. Granny died. Granny's going to be dying. She's sick. She's going to be dying. You want to use those words. I know that we all are at a different place with our faith and with our walk. Please, please, please do not tell your children that Granny has gone to be with Jesus, with God in heaven, or is partying in heaven. Sorry, I don't want to offend you, but don't say those things. To a small child, those all sound like places they can go and get Granny and bring her back. Poor little Jordan, Erica will have to share, thought that Austin had gone with Kevin, and he misconstrued Kevin for the word heaven. And so there was this crazy thing going on through the whole time. And he was 3. He thought Austin was in heaven, and he was looking for heaven. We want to be patient. Don't force them to talk. You and I don't know how to talk in feelings. How do we expect them to talk in feelings? So don't ask them what they're feeling, because they're not going to tell you. Erica, anything to add to
that?
I
would just say to say to them, whatever you feel is okay.
Mm-hmm.
However you feel right now. And then, you know, as the time goes by and we're not going to be with Granny, if you're missing her, that's okay. To just normalize whatever is showing up is okay. Because I think that, well, one, they're looking to us, right? And if we're not showing our emotions, then what are we teaching them? They're not going to show their emotions. So we need to really say, and first, before telling Jordan, when I talked to Donovan, when Austin passed, Donovan was 12. And I just kind of, one day he walked in and I was crying. And he said, what's wrong? He was very protective of me. And I said, I'm just having a bad Austin day. And I said, you know what? Some days I'm going to have these bad Austin days. I'm going to miss him. I'm going to cry. Some days I'm not going to cry. Some days we're going to talk about him and we're going to laugh because we're going to remember how silly he was and the funny things he said. Some days we might be mad and it's all okay. But I need you to do what you need to do about the way you feel about missing your brother. And this was pre having any grief training. This was just mama intuition, me just having a conversation with him.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful that I did that because the kids, one, they want to protect. So a lot of times people will say, oh, don't let your kids see you crying. That's the worst thing you could do is isolate yourself.
Yeah,
They
I agree.
need to see you crying. They're going to have experiences of their own moving forward. The best thing you could do is teach them how to grieve properly. Yeah. And going back to Jordan was 3 when Austin died. And I, again, just mama intuition, I took him in the bathroom because we had a house full of people. Everyone, we had the potato salad coming. We had all kinds of food. And I took him into the bathroom and I gave him a bath and it was just me and him and it was quiet. And I just said, just say the truth. And I said, Austin died. When I took him out and I had the towel around him. And that 3-year-old, his 3-year-old little heart, he understood what I said because he put his head down and he started crying. And I just held him. And then, I mean, ugly cry. I was ugly crying. It was just the saddest thing I had to ever, do at him at 3 years old. But then, like Sharon said, over every day, he would ask for Austin. And then he misunderstood heaven for Kevin. Because then I started to say, well, he's in heaven. Yeah. Well, then he misunderstood it for Kevin. Then he got mad at one of Donovan's friends named Kevin. I mean, it was like a whole mess. It was So even for the littles, tell them the truth. You just have to reaffirming it every day. And you're going to have to keep going over it because they don't understand. Yeah. And the hardest thing with having, when you have a 3-year-old go through something, Austin died almost every year for him. The closer he got to understanding what death really was. I think that comes in around 7. Might be earlier now with social media and kids having phones. So it might be earlier, but it's like he went through it every year. The closer he really got to understanding what it means to die, to have someone die. And it was really, really challenging. And my heart I would just hold space for him. And that's another thing. You could just hold space because there's nothing you can do. I couldn't fix it. All I could do is hold his space.
Yeah. That's good. Well, ladies, we have come to the end. I have so many more questions, and I think we already knew that we have to do part 2, part 3, part 4, because I think it would be very helpful to break down, even if it's just 30 minutes of talking about the grief of a loved one and 30 minutes about the grief of a job or grief of that. Like, I think we could break this down in so many different ways because I think life is about grief and overcoming. You're going to consistently lose something and you have to continuously overcome. And so I don't think this conversation stops here, of course. Before we end, I love to ask this question, which is, tell me one thing that you absolutely love about yourself. Sharon, I'm going to give it to you, that you absolutely love. Can't nobody tell you different. If they try to tell you different, they lying. What is one thing that you love about you?
I'm going to make it a 2-parter. Sorry. I love that I have the most amazing husband in the world and that together we make a dynamic team.
I just told you I'm not, hold on. First of all, you can't be bringing in no man. I'm grieving a man. Okay, it's not about me. No.
It's because I got him, girl. It's because I got him. Sorry. I do love.
Oh my God.
I do love that about myself. I love the dynamic duo we have become. But I think the other thing that I love about myself, honestly, is I love my sisterhood. There's 4 girls. There's 4 of us, and I wasn't the only one holding her up. There were 2 others that were holding her up. So, it was all of us took a part to hold her up, but that we are this amazing sisterhood that continues today. So I think I love that I'm a part of those 2 communities, and those are both great.
Yeah.
It's so special and rare. Everyone does not
and
have
Erica
that.
loves me. I'm going to answer for Erica. Erica loves me.
It's not me.
Possibly say, that's it. That's all. Erica, what is one thing you love about you?
I absolutely love my sense of humor. I think I am a good time. I crack myself up all the time. Sharon does not love it as much as I do.
You are a good time. We had a whole chain of text messages this morning of me sending her a message of how to pronunciate your last name. I sent her a voice message, and she sent me a message back and broke down the name. I was like, well, that was simple. And then she was like, I was like, dang, I feel slow. And she's like, yeah, but I also didn't know how to send you a voice message. And I was like, okay, so we both dumb on Sunday.
We were saving all of our energy for this. We needed all the brain power for this.
It was so fun. But no, I thank you guys for this. Thank you guys for your time. I always say, and I always will say, that time that a person gives to you, you can't take for granted. You guys are married, you have kids, you have a life outside of me and outside of this platform, but you gave me your time. You were so gracious at the beginning with some of the hiccups. And so thank y'all so much for your yes. Not everyone says yes, by the way, and that's okay. But then the people that do say yes is always the one that God has amazing story to give to us and to give this platform. So I'm so gracious. So thank you guys. We will be here again. We'll have to do this again. I will connect with y'all. And thank you everyone who in the live that was gracious too and showed up. And there's so many comments, y'all. I didn't even post all of the comments. You'll be able to kind of see them later. They were tapped in to this information. Where can people find y'all?
They can find us at Healing Starts with the Heart on our podcast. They can find us at SharonBrubaker.com, or they can find us at the Grief School, where we teach everyone how to grieve.
Yes.
Okay. And I'll post all of this in the show notes. I'll post it back in the chat so you guys know where to find these ladies. But thank you so much. They're blowing the chat up. Thank you. It was enlightening. So they're excited, and they were apparently just amazed at you guys as I was. So thank you guys.
Thank you for having us. We loved it.
Of course. I will talk to y'all soon. Have a good rest of your Sunday.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye, guys.